Welcome everybody to episode 94 of Dork Tunes. Maybe can we get to that 100 before the new year? So anyway, we're back. Another show, and I've got a really interesting guest with me this week, and I'm going to get them to introduce themselves. There you go.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. My name's Ben Emberley. I'm a British composer, conductor and orchestral arranger. I come from Kent, just outside London. I've been involved in classical music for well over 30 years. And ever since 2011, I've been very deeply involved in making arrangements and orchestrations of video game music. And I balance the arranging work with my own compositions. So I keep myself busy primarily with that, and that's what I do on a freelance basis.
Awesome. So Ben, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you kind of decide? Was it decided? Was it just something that you kind of wanted to do? You went into? How did you get to kind of where you are in relation to it? Like some people do, like everybody does it different. So some people may go to classical, go to university and learn classics and do, sound design or whatever. Some people just fall into it. So where did you fall on that kind of?
Well, I think it was when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I saw a little cartoon on TV called High Note, which was all these little tiny little those little notes reproducing the score of Strauss's Blue Danube, and I thought that was pretty cool, and that kind of got me into music, and I started exploring the classical music of Beethoven and Mozart and Tchaikovsky. I then started getting interested in classical music concerts. I started going to local performances. And as the years progressed, I developed my interests in classical music even more, to the point where I actually started writing my own music while I was still in primary school.
Oh, wow.
I started taking lessons, and I started writing sketches, but it wasn't until I started university, interestingly enough, I started with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics.
Okay, so slightly different.
That's my first degree at the University of Kent at Canterbury, but I was already writing music even in the first year of my degree. So after I graduated, I decided I wanted to change course and focus on music. Now, it wasn't until 2011 that I saw the E3 Summit in Los Angeles, which was the 25th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda, and they had a little orchestral performance there, which Manoon, who is a friend of mine, conducted, and that's how I got into video game music as a concert format. And I thought that's one of the most amazing things in the world, because I grew up with video games all my life, just as I have done with classical music. And 2 years later, I went to the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses concert in London, and I fell in love with it completely. And I thought, well, if this is the type of thing I want to do, then this is the type of thing that I want to do. So I started working on how to write my own arrangements. I use a program called Sibelius, a notation software where I can write my own music in, instead of just focusing on using pen and paper. So you don't know what it sounds like when it's on pen and paper unless you've got a keyboard with you. But if you can hear it in your head, and if you can hear it on computer, then it's very easy and very quick to do. And after I saw Symphony of the Goddesses for about the third time, I thought, I want to do this for a living. This is my calling. So I decided to write an arrangement to show the producers what I could do. and it took me 15 months. But I finally finished my first arrangement, and it was a 55-minute long symphonic poem called The Creation of Hyrule, which I performed parts of it at Magfest in 2020. I also uploaded it to YouTube the following year. It's still on YouTube, I think. And after I showed bits of this to the producers, they said, can you write a piece of music for the Symphony of the Goddesses concert? And I thought, that's my golden opportunity. And I immediately jumped at the chance. And I've been working on video game arrangements ever since.
Mhm.
And I do that pretty much day to day now, in addition to my own compositions.
And do you think that you would do the jump from kind of doing the live shows to doing a game itself?
I think the idea of live shows is a great idea because it brings video game music to an audience that otherwise might not have been aware of its existence. That's why it's becoming more popular on Classic FM now.
Mm,
Um, but composing for video game music scores, I would have no problems with that. I mean, you get to write your own individual music as opposed to reimagining or developing other people's music. And I think that there's more creative freedom in doing that because you can bring the sounds in your head out onto paper. That would really highlight the emotional impact of the gameplay.
mm. It must have been really special for you though, for everything to start with the Zelda series, um, and then you've seen the concert three times, and then you actually get asked to compose for it.
Yes, I actually saw it a total of 7 times. The only time I
Wow.
didn't see it was in 2012 when it first came to the UK, and that's because I wasn't aware that it had come. If it had, I would have definitely been there. But yes, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I remember how upset and devastated people were in early 2018 when it was announced that it's not performing anymore. And I was deeply upset about that because it was one of the big inspirations for me.
But as you say, live music now, particularly for around video game music, is massive. You know,
It's extremely massive. There's always something new coming um, round the corner.
yeah,
Um, a new concert series that somebody's creating, or a new subgenre of I don't know, Final Fantasy music or Sonic music or Pokemon music, which seems to be in addition to Zelda, the really big franchises that are um, being touted as uh, the most popular video game music scores, and the public just eat it up. Sorry.
bless you. Just so
And then,
everybody knows, Ben is officially the first guest on the show in 94 episodes who has COVID. And today is the first day he's been able to get out of bed in since what, Monday? So yeah,
yes,
please excuse it.
I'm operating purely on Lemsip and honey at the moment.
I'm like you. You said before we start recording that this is your first time with COVID. I'm like you in that respect. I'm in touch wood. I've never had it so far. My friend thinks I'm ground zero. I've been out, lots of people and absolutely fine. I did think I had Christmas before last, but I didn't. I was testing every day and it was fine.
Oh
But
dear.
I know. But yeah, it's proper floored you, hasn't
It's a complete stamina sapper.
it? Just maybe try and enjoy the rest.
Oh, I am. I mean, I've spent about 80%, 90% of the last 3 days just on my bed.
Okay.
That's all I've been doing, just drinking hot lemon sip and honey,
Yeah.
trying to keep a clear head.
Yeah.
That's all I've been doing.
So you mentioned to me that you're a gamer. Is there any particular game series?
Oh yes, well, I've been a Nintendo fan primarily for my whole life. I mean, I've
Me too.
the NES, the SNES, the 64, the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, and the
Mhm,
Switch. I've got them all. I still have
mhm,
some of the old ones.
mhm,
Game Boy, of course.
mhm,
But I've never owned a Sega or a Commodore or an Atari or anything like that. I play a few PC video games. Unreal Tournament 99 is my number one favorite, and even though it's nearly half a quarter of a century old, I still play it almost on a daily basis. But some of the older retro games that you can play now on the Wii or on the Switch. Things like the original Super Mario Brothers or Mega Man.
mhm.
I still play those very frequently, and I still have a genuine love for them. Some of the newer games, I think they're okay, but some of the golden oldies, especially Ocarina of Time, uh, you can't beat them. Or Mario 64.
Yeah,
You just can't beat those games because they're so iconic and so special.
and I think we hold a kind of reverence to games like that, definitely. And for me, when you say the title's name, um, you can you can hear it in your head. You can hear the music in your head. You can hear Mario music, Sonic music. You name it, you can hear it. I think that's a real testament to composers from
Yes,
that
Koji
era.
Kondo, Kenta Nagata, and Hajime Wakai, Toru Minagishi have all written some of the most iconic video game music that there is out there. And of course, I'd be very amiss if I didn't mention the great Nobuo Uematsu, the man who wrote all the music to Final Fantasy. Uh, Absolutely priceless and
I'm
timeless music that everybody would recognize.
yeah, I'm going to be brutally honest. Um, if I hear One Winged Angel once more, I'm going to scream, quite frankly. I
You
don't,
like it then, do you?
it's not my favorite, I have to admit.
Oh, you're not a fan of it?
No, I think there's a little, it's not that I'm not a fan of it, it is good, but there's a lot of other stuff out there, Why I don't understand why almost every kind of live show there's always a one-winged angel or a version of it or a snippet of it. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but
Very
come on.
Stravinskian. I'm pretty sure that Uematsu had been listening to Stravinsky's Rite of Spring when
Uh-huh.
he was writing it because it's got that feel to it.
Mm, definitely. And are there any kind of, I know we were talking that you were a gamer, but are there any kind of soundtracks over the years that you've really, really been impressed by?
Yes, Ocarina of Time, definitely. Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword from The Legend of Zelda, definitely. Super Mario World was one of my all-time favorites. Mario 64, definitely. And some of the Mario Party franchise games, especially 5 and 6,
I've
I
never
really
actually
liked.
played those.
And Mario Galaxy, the first Mario Galaxy,
Yeah.
that was 2007, I think.
Dusty
2000.
Gardens and all those ones.
I really found that music quite appealing.
Yeah. I mean, Dusty Gardens is iconic and a classic.
It is.
Yeah, we love
Is
those.
another piece that I do have a very genuine attachment to is the opera scene from Final Fantasy VI,
Why is that?
because I'm a classical musician, and what they do is that they combine classical music with video game music.
Mhm.
So you have a piece of classical music in a video game, and it's one of the most popular pieces in the entire collection of Final Fantasy soundtracks.
Oh, wow.
It's a real staple for the Distant Worlds concerts
Yeah.
and any concert series that specializes in only Final Fantasy music.
Yeah.
They have professional singers come along and
Yeah.
perform. It's wonderful.
Do you find that when you've been invited to have a piece in a concert, do you generally are you generally there when it's being played or
I always do my best to go if I can,
Yeah.
because I love to hear how the orchestra interprets and plays it, and how the conductor interprets and plays it as well. I find that very interesting
Yeah.
because I have my own ideas as to how the music should sound and why it should sound that way. But when somebody else looks at the score, they may have their own ideas.
Mhm. And it must be really special to be able to sit there and go,
It was, especially when I first went to Symphony of the Goddesses in 2017, and they heard the piece, and I heard for the first time the piece that I co-wrote. That was more than special.
yeah,
And when you see your name come up on the credits at the end, you just get that massive euphoria, and you think, I did that.
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely agree. It's something that's really special. I worked on a game a few years ago and was the music consultant on it. And it's really nice. But it was really nice to be able to see at the end, my name come up in the little list. I think the world needs definitely more music consultants. So
It's a fabulous feeling.
yeah, it is, and it's a difficult job because I had to spend the time getting to know the characters, getting to know the story, and kind of finding out where it all fit together sonically, you know. And
Yes,
and that for me was the really interesting part, because you're basically you're making how that game is going to sound. You're the little seed at the beginning, and then it goes out like that. It's really, really interesting. And ended up,
it is.
um, Kevin Penkin ended up scoring it. I don't know if you know Kevin, but he is incredible. You know, he did a game called Florence that was nominated for a BAFTA. Um, he's working on loads of stuff for Netflix. He's phenomenal and a really, really nice chap.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met
The thing
him.
about a video game soundtrack is that it's just as instrumental to the experience as
Mhm.
the plot line or the gameplay. And
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
think that a huge amount of people really appreciate it. Some people look at it as a kind of um, ornamentation to the gameplay to spice it up, but it's just as important as the gameplay itself,
Yeah,
in my
completely.
opinion.
I agree. And there's some games that you would never consider sonically to be different if they hadn't have the soundtrack they do. I would obviously like Doom, the Doom games, Journey, you know, so many games that are absolutely iconic.
Journey is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, it's really, really, really special. I'll show you something later, by the way, that I've
Okay.
got. Oh, and how do you kind of approach your work when you're working on?
If I'm approaching an orchestration, an arrangement of a video game piece, what I think to myself is, what can I do to this piece of music that hasn't already been done?
Mhm,
Can I put a twist on it? Can I put a can I give it an atmosphere that people haven't? One of the first pieces that I wrote was called the Marine Waltz, which is the underwater music from Super Mario Land and Super Mario World. And I think that's got about 33 plus thousand views on YouTube.
wow.
Because what I did, I took those two melodies and I basically turned it into a Viennese Strauss waltz. And people absolutely loved that.
Hmm.
I did a few different other pieces,
Hmm.
other arrangements with the same idea. I did the Comet Observatory from Super Mario Galaxy, and I gave that the same treatment, and that was also incredibly popular as well. So if you come up with something new, then I'm certain that people are really going to like that. the novelty of the concept of how you altered the music,
Mm.
especially if you take just a short piece and you extend it or add filler or your own ideas to it to really beef it up, which is what I did with the Bolero of Fire arrangement from Ocarina of Time. I also added Sheik's theme into that as well halfway through, because I thought it would make a nice contrasting middle section, nice, more meditative internal middle section, as opposed to the fiery um, force of the actual bolero itself. I then consider how I'm going to structure the piece, what orchestration I'm going to use. Some of it, or most of it, requires a full orchestra. Some of it requires a choir. It depends on the atmosphere of the piece and what I think would be needed to um, really bring out the character of the piece, because every piece pretty much has a character to it. And I then set about to writing it for a full orchestra. Sometimes I come up with about 3 or 4 different ways of writing a section, and I choose one over the other. And I go with that. I've done that many times. Sometimes I've even written a piece out for double piano, just a simple reduction, and then I orchestrate that.
Mhm.
And that's another way that I do things. And then at the end, I just fine tune some of the pieces in terms of the orchestration. And then I add all the attacks and the notations and phrasing, etc. Only at the very end, so everybody can see where all the melodies begin and end and how everything should be played. And then after that, what I do is that I put it through a sample set called Note Performer, and then give it a little bit of an audio tweak in Audacity, and there you have the audio of the music.
Yes. And one thing I was going to ask you is, do you ever worry about the reception that it's going to receive when it is played live?
I don't really, because I've had a few pieces performed by me, and every time I've had a piece performed, the response has always been positive, because I always get the impression that people enjoy the music that I write. I mean, I think in a few years I've managed to amass just over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I'm on the way there. I mean, there's people who've got hundreds more, but it's a long road.
Yeah,
A
that's
road that never
amazing.
stops. But it got to the point where one person, I think, actually took one of my arrangements and tried to pass it off as their own, and they got absolutely ripped apart on YouTube, and they had to delete that video. So I think if somebody's doing that,
Yeah,
then you know that
you're on
your
your way.
music is of a good quality.
Yeah, if definitely if somebody's doing that or they're kind of stealing your ideas and stuff like that, then yeah, definitely. I can get with that one. And so what's next? What's next for you then, Ben?
Next for me. Um, to be honest with you, I'm not overly sure. I'm just continuing working on
Mhm.
the musical projects and plans that I have. The only problem, of course, now is building the audience
Mhm.
and finding the audience that likes the music that I write.
Mhm.
And that for me is probably been the hardest thing in the world. I
Mhm.
mean, people aren't going to come to you. They've got to know that you exist and that your music exists, and it's what people want to see. I mean, that's how so many YouTubers have started out, and their channels have absolutely erupted
Mhm.
to the point where people like, I don't know, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, they've got subscribers in the millions now,
Hmm.
20 to 30 million plus. And there's arrangers out there and people who do what I do, and they've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So they evidently must be doing something right. Um, Obviously, I have no idea what that is. Because if I knew what it was, I would be there myself. But all I can do is just continue putting up music of my own,
Hmm.
the arrangements that I do, in the hope that people will like what they hear. I mean,
Hmm.
if I could use crowdfunders to create albums of the
Hmm.
music that I've written, I think that would be a great idea. But I've
And
still got to find an audience who'd be willing to back me.
yeah, well, I
That's
mean,
the thing.
got over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so there is definitely an audience. You know, we're all here. That was something else I was going to say to you. That must be really nice when you actually do attend to hear your music being played live. People reacting to it, you know, and clapping. And
It's one of the most euphoric sensations I've ever experienced. I mean, when the audience applauded at Symphony of the Goddesses, and when they applauded when I performed part of the creation of Hyrule at Magfest in 2020,
mm,
um, well, the audience at Magfest were on their feet, and I was absolutely thrilled at that.
some nice memories.
Yes, that's also on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. No, not on my YouTube channel. A channel called Gamer Symphony Orchestra Dreams, run by a very good friend of mine, Michelle Michelle Eng, who does a lot of work in the United States, helping create video game orchestras. She is more than worth her weight in gold.
It's something that I'd love to be able to go to more, but I think the north of England is very, very sparse when it comes to gigs, apart from Manchester. You know, Manchester gets everything. Leeds and Liverpool, anywhere else doesn't get a lot. I think I've only ever seen one here, and that was quite a few years ago.
Yes, there's not many. There used to be a video game orchestra in Manchester.
Hmm.
Uh, Unfortunately, I think, or was it Wales? But I can't remember precisely.
Hmm.
But that orchestra, unfortunately, has gone defunct.
Hmm.
Sadly, they weren't able to sustain it. There's also the video game orchestra of Ireland, which is run by a good friend of mine called Robert Martin,
Hmm.
and some of his stuff that he does with them is fantastic.
And that I didn't know about in Ireland. That would have been cool many years ago when I was there.
Yes, they're a good bunch. They're a very good bunch. But in the United States, there's quite a fair amount,
Yeah,
especially
well,
in areas like Baltimore
yeah.
and Maryland. That area near Washington D.C. California is also a really good place. Um, Good friend of mine, Jose Ruiz, runs uh, the GME Orchestra
Hmm.
in the University of California at I think it's Berkeley, California. I think I'm not sure precisely where, but he's involved with them, and also the Virtual Video Game Orchestra as well, which is an online one. Um,
Yes.
they are all absolutely fantastic, and I've written pieces for both of those orchestras. Um, I think one concert that Jose did, he performed three pieces of mine, and that was on a video as well, which is on YouTube. And that concert lasted nearly 3 hours. It was an absolute
Yeah.
marathon, and the audience just went crazy at the end.
Wow, I can imagine. Well, Ben, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you today, and I'm sorry that
You
you've
too.
got COVID, but I appreciate that you still continue to come on the show. So that's
Oh,
awesome.
yes.
So
A
hopefully
lot
you'll
of
start feeling
unknown
better.
opportunities to come on a show.
Well, hopefully you'll start to feel better over the weekend, so you can
Yes,
enjoy yourself a little, you know.
I'll, I'll try to enjoy myself.
Yeah, test negative soon.
I hope so too.
Well, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure. Well,
Thanks for
that's all,
having me.
folks.
Speak to
Take
you.
care.